Outdoor adventures may be thrilling, but they can also take a turn for the worse. Whether in the woods, in the mountains, or on a deserted island, you need to learn essential wilderness survival tips that can mean the difference between life and death. Welcome back to our channel, you guys. In today's video, we'll be telling you 9 basic tips you need for surviving in the wild. Pack for emergencies. It's no secret that extensive survival gear is necessary for staying alive, safe, and comfortable in the wild. Even if you're going for a short hike, you can't toss a few water bottles and a granola bar in your backpack and call it good. It's necessary to be prepared for the worst possible scenario, regardless of how easy or short your outdoor activity seems. So what items must be part of your emergency survival kit? Besides food, water, maps, protective clothing, and first aid, you need a water filter or water purifying drops or tablets, an emergency blanket, waterproof lighters or matches, an insect repellent, and a survival knife. Don't forget to keep a cordage or rope, which is one of the most important emergency items. It's recommended to opt for a parachute cord since it's sturdy, lightweight, and portable. It will not only act as an excellent shelter building tool, but will also help you hoist your food out of reach of wild animals. Your survival kit should also include a signaling device, since there's a high chance you won't be able to rely on your smartphone when you're out in the wild. So pack a personal locator beacon, several flashlights, a signaling mirror, and multiple whistles. Signal nearby search and rescue teams. Packing signal devices won't be of any use if you don't know how to use them. One of the most important survival skills is to notify nearby search and rescue teams using visual and auditory signals. During darkness, fire is the most effective visual means for signaling, but you can also use smoke to attract the attention of rescuers and notify them of your location for evacuation. Try to create a contrast between the color of smoke and the background. For instance, if you have a dark background, create white smoke by adding green leaves, moss, or a little water to a large fire. If your background is light, add rubber or oil-soaked rags to a fire to get black smoke. You can also use whistles, signaling mirrors, or a strobe light to attract attention. In case you're out of all options, use clothing or natural materials such as rock or foliage to form a symbol or message that can be seen from the air. Find or build shelter. The next step is to find or build a temporary refuge. Depending on the climate, weather, terrain, and available resources, you'll have to see whether you need shelter from the wind and rain or from the hot, scorching sun. Finding shelter is typically more important in cold weather, where the chances of hypothermia are increasingly high. In such cases, you must insulate your shelter in some way to retain body heat. Also, avoid sleeping directly on the ground. Instead, lay down pine boughs, grass, or other insulating material to keep the ground from absorbing your body heat. Some examples of natural shelters include caves, rocky crevices, clumps of bushes, small depressions, large rocks on leeward sides of hills, large trees with low-hanging limbs, and fallen trees with thick branches. Meanwhile, a debris hut, poncho tent, and parachute hammock are some examples of shelters you can easily construct in the wilds. Find a clean water source. While humans can survive for 40 days without food, we can't live more than 8 to 10 days without water. So finding and collecting drinking water should be one of your priorities in a survival scenario. According to David Towns, an emergency medicine physician, moving clear-looking water is better than stagnant water, and cold water is better than warm water. Collecting snow melt or rainwater is even better. If you're by the ocean, don't drink seawater without using a desalting kit first. If you're in a desert, look for water in valleys and low areas, at the foot of cliffs or rock outcrops, in depressions or holes in rocks, or near vegetation. Regardless of the water source, always purify the water before drinking it. Use a water filter, iodine tablets, or a fire to boil the water. In case none of these methods are possible, try makeshift methods like straining water through a clear t-shirt or collecting it in a basin and skimming the cleaner water off the top. Never substitute alcohol, blood, seawater, or urine for water. Also, avoid drinking any kind of liquid that's sticky, milky, or bitter tasting. Locate a food source. After water, your most urgent requirement would be food. Small, non-poisonous animals that are easy to trap are usually the best food sources. Some examples include worms, insects, and birds, such as ducks and geese. But if you're near a freshwater source, it's better to opt for fish, crustaceans such as crayfish and shrimp, and mollusks, which include octopuses, and saltwater shellfish such as snails, clams, and mussels. If your only food source is an amphibian or reptile, avoid brightly colored frogs, hawksbill turtles, large sea turtles, and all kinds of snakes, alligators, and crocodiles. Besides animals, you can also look for edible fruits, flowers, roots, and mushrooms. Some examples of edible plants include baobab, asparagus, cashew nut, chestnut, and dandelion. If you have enough resources, always steam or boil plant parts before eating them. Build a fire and practice fire safely. We've already discussed the use of fire for signaling, but it's also essential for a variety of other reasons. Fire enables you to cook a meal, boil and purify water, stay warm, and ward off dangerous animals from your shelter site. To build a fire, you need a dry patch of ground and tinder, for which you can use dry leaves, pine needles, paper, or small pieces of wood. The next step is to use waterproof matches or a fire starter to spark tinder and kindling. But even if you don't have matches, you can use friction to create an ember or ignite a spark with a flint and steel. Once the fire is lit, keep feeding it with firewood and any kind of timber that you can find. Practicing fire safety is just as important, so keep your survival kit and other items away from the flames because strong winds can easily spread fire. Practice cleanliness and hygiene. This may seem like an extra step, but protecting yourself against bacteria, parasites, and pathogens can significantly reduce your chance of succumbing to an illness. Practice cleanliness and hygiene as much as you can, and in case of an injury or a wound, always keep the area of wound clean. Use your first aid kit to stop any kind of bleeding and stabilize broken bones or sprains. Stay calm and assess the situation. This is another underrated survival tip that can save your life in extreme circumstances. Instead of panicking and letting your stress hormones take control of your mind, try to stay calm and assess the situation that you're in. Take a few deep breaths and collect your thoughts. This will stop you from making hasty decisions or mistakes that can be dangerous or even life-threatening. React safely to wildlife. Finally, you must learn how to react safely to wildlife. Avoid encounters with lions, bears, and all kinds of large animals with horns and hooves. Not to mention smaller animals like insects, bees, lizards, and small venomous snakes that can sting or bite. Never leave food around your camp area since it can easily attract wild animals. Use all your senses while moving through the wilderness and survey the scene carefully. In case you find yourself in an aggressive face-to-face situation with an animal, move away slowly and don't turn your back to the animal, especially if it's a bear. Using these survival techniques can massively improve your chances of making it through a life or death situation, especially if you're lost in the wilderness. So make sure to keep these tips in mind the next time you plan an outdoor adventure. And with that, we've officially reached the end of this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell icon to stay updated with our latest content. See you next time!